defined.
My girl is defined.
I embrace what's mine.
I embrace what's mine.
My friends and I.
My friends and I.
We rock the block.
We rock the block.
Looking for more.
Looking for more.
We came to explore.
We came to explore.
Just to be sure.
Just to be sure.
We rock the block.
We rock the block.
Embrace ourselves.
Embrace ourselves.
Explore our world.
Explore our world.
Empower our friends.
Empower our friends.
We rock the block.
We rock the block.
All right, so that's what I start off every session with, the curly motto. The kids really like doing it, and initially they get tired of it, but whatever. It gets them bought in for sure. I just want to say thank you for the panelists here, and in lieu of time, I just want to have you be able to introduce yourselves, and so say your name, your zodiac sign, and what organization you're representing here today, okay? Go ahead, we'll start with you on this left side.
I am Dr. Kyla Armstrong Romero, and I am the president of Aurora Public School Board. I'm me. Oh goodness. Hello. Okay. I'm Mila Ali. I work for DPS Schools, and I'm here representing the Black Caucus of DC today.
I am Stephanie Mason, and I'm on the Aurora School Board.
Cherry Creek School Board.
Hey, I'm Dr. Osset, and I'm with Vision to Performing Arts College Prep.
Hi, I'm Yolanda Dandridge, and I am a community psychotherapist, and I own the Movement Institute.
Natasha Maturi, Aurora Police Department.
My name is Brittany Hayes. I'm a Virgo. And I work for the Aurora Police Department.
I'm a Leo.
There's no prizes now. They don't follow directions. I'm Aquarius. Yes, because we run this. I just want you to know. We started. That's how we got here. You know, Capricorn don't follow rules. That's right. Well-behaved women, right? Rarely do. Okay, so there's a list of questions that I came up with after watching the documentary. I actually was introduced to this book, The PUSHOUT, by a white teacher colleague friend of mine, Emily, and yeah, she was really cool. And she was like, yeah, I've been reading this book, and there's a lot of statistics, and you know, I think you should check it out. So she lent it to me. And so that was a year and a half ago, almost. Is it kind of ringing? Is that ringing? This is 8. Right here. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to not. You get too much feedback because there's 8 so mics. But anyway, yeah, so I read the book first, and you know, I was pushing it on other people as well. And I was elated to find out that the documentary was being created and was available. So I also want to shout out Dr. Darlene Sampson, who was spearheading and she did was able to do a showing at Metro State. I'm a Roadrunner. Any Roadrunners? We're here. So I'm going to keep it brief on my end, but I definitely had a lot of reactions. Raise your hand if you could relate to what you saw personally or indirectly. You've heard stories. Literally, we know DPS is dealing with something that happened this week. A 6-year-old, you know, and even without the details, I think our heartstrings are being pulled because we just want something different for our young girls to experience, right? And so I think that overarchingly, we want something different. And I know that the Black Excellence Resolution was made for DPS, and there's some things that are embedded in that resolution to start talking more and representing for our young girls and Black students. So without further ado, I want you to keep what we witnessed and viewed, your personal experiences in mind, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions and have reactions. I also want to just set the tone. I like positive spaces, and I thrive on that. Lots of lights help, and really engaging audiences as well. So just being mindful, you can live stream, absolutely. And if you do have a question, raise your hand, and I'll try to nod and come by you. And just being respectful. Everyone here has a job, a role, a purpose, and whether or not you agree with something they've done or doing or may have to do in the future, we want to make sure this is a safe space for us to have a conversation and dialogue, right? So this is learning, this is community collaboration, and an opportunity for us to grow together and make education spaces good for our young girls. So, I'm just gonna look up the paper because I logged in my phone 5 times. All right. The first question I asked the panelists to consider is representation in school curriculum imperative and empowering? How can an inclusive curriculum create a nurturing environment for Black female students? And the way I'll do this, I'll pitch this question, and any of the panelists who feel they want to respond, absolutely just let me know, and you can take the lead.
So I think it is imperative. I mean, representation, went to Overland High School and graduated from Overland High School and didn't learn enough about our people. And, hold on. I'll speak louder. Is that better?
We can hear you. I can.
The lights on?
We can hear them.
Okay.
We can hear you.
So I didn't learn enough about our people, and some of the history books that we're still using still don't represent us. We don't learn about, you know, the things that may be important to young Black women and seeing ourselves in historical figures, right? And that, I think, is imperative and necessary.
I think along those same lines, I'm a mother of 4 children. I have 2 girls and 2 boys. And my daughter, my oldest daughter was completely like non-traditional. She never liked the whole dolls and any of that stuff. And so I remember when the Star Wars trailer came out, from that, but the 1 2 with Finn, that one, whatever that one was. We were on the couch watching it, you know, waiting for it to come out, and then she and her brother, she made raisins like, oh my God, Black people are in space. And I was like, what? So she was really into science fiction, and I did not realize that Black people do not make it to space. And that really, and then just like, it's just what happened, then like a few weeks later, I happened to catch The View on TV, and Whoopi Goldberg talked about how her role on Star Trek and how she and Aurora and just those few Black women that made it into space. And so even just in knowing our history, but then also in dreaming and being a part of the future, that, you know, that we are part of science fiction, that we can be part of fantasy books, and we can be fairies, and we can be half robot, half whatever. Having our girls in all of those spaces is really important.
I think that the second question, an inclusive curriculum, creating a nurturing environment, we can put that on the adults. Because if there are white educators in front of students of color, if they are using an inclusive curriculum, it can also shift their biases, right? And the reality is that these educators, even folks of color, as we saw in the documentary, still will have those biases, but creating a nurturing environment in schools are up to the adults. And so as a school founder and admin person, we put that on the adults. And so if you're using a curriculum that's giving you more than Harriet Tubman, more than Rosa Parks, and like, you know who Queen Nzinga is, you know who Queen Osset is, you know, if you know these characters, white mindsets will shift, Eurocentric influenced mindsets will shift, and those nurturing environments have no other choice but to be nurtured.
And I have a question for you guys. How many of you have seen Hidden Figures? Okay. How many were able to, how many didn't even know about Hidden Figures? How many young had no idea? See, that's one of the problems also with our school system and getting that information out there, as Seth was saying. one of the things I found out too is that being in the school system, I was president of the PTSO. And then there was a group of girls that continued to have issues in the school. So got with the principal and decided to have a class every Wednesday after school. And seeing them girls, one girl who came in and, oops, sorry about that, guys. She was brought to us because she was thinking about hurting herself, okay? And with the issue of our kids not having the support they need, and the teachers, I'm gonna back up, because we're talking about our girls who are amazing, beautiful, all of you out there. But we have to look at those people that's in that classroom that we're bringing our children to. These girls came to us because they felt like the teachers weren't listening to them, they were having conflicts and issues and fighting. So just having that time after school, every week, giving them self-esteem, listening to their problem, whether it's the boys' problem, doing vision boards with them, just that nurturing, saying, I see you, I hear you, I care. And a lot of times, that's all our kids need in those schools, and they're not getting it, and we have to look back at the people that are in the schools. I know we have amazing teachers, but not all teachers are amazing teachers, and let's just be real about it. Some teachers are in there and may not give that support that our students need, that the care and attention. And our kids feel it, they know if you care about them, and they know if you don't. And that's a problem in our school system right now. We need to be real, let's speak the truth, and deal with that situation. We gotta know where we're taking our kids, and our parents. You gotta be involved, you gotta know who's teaching your child. You can't just drop them off and think, okay, we're done. You gotta know who's your child having to deal with every day in that school.
And listen and trust your child.
Yes.
When your babies are coming home and saying something isn't right, my teacher does, and I know, like, find an advocate. If you can't, go sit in class. Go see those microaggressions. Go see what is really happening, and trust your babies.
We know you can't be what you can't see, right?
Right.
And at the end of the day, with Aurora Public Schools, we recently had a presentation and talked about the percentage of overall students of color and African American students. And I believe for African American students, we're at what, 18%?
50%, yes.
And then our teachers of color were 6%.
Probably less than that.
So although, I think going back to the question, making sure that although we have that reality and inclusive curriculum and making sure that our teachers are well educated too, regardless of whether they represent us, look like us, they can talk about it.
Right.
And I think that that's an important factor too.
And we both learn on both sides. We all learn. All the kids learn.
And not to repeat, I'm definitely in agreement with having curriculum that is encouraging and also empowering for our schools, but the most of it is around modeling and embodying. What does that mean? Because you can have someone teaching a curriculum about yourself, but if there is no modeling, not just in school, but in our communities, it's like information that's just running around in your head, but you don't know how to embody it. And a lot of the other parts of the challenge that we have is, how do we embody being in a Black body? How do we do that, as well as cognitively show that we have the brilliance of some of the people that we're learning about, but how do we do it also in our community? So it's not just having curriculum in our schools, it has to also reflect in the community as well.
I think in traditional spaces, school is white. It is European American, it's the British colonization. And so if we don't have a curriculum, then that's not a safe space for your students. And so I like that comment of go see those microaggressions, but without that curriculum, students can't be safe in that school because they're not learning something that reflects them and is there for them. And so something that's really important for us is that, no, you will have this curriculum and you will get this curriculum because we've gotten a different narrative. And high school's too late. They need to know in kindergarten. Because when you're sitting there and you're hearing kindergartners say, oh, Black people started at slavery, you're like, hold on, wait a second. Who told you that? Oh, we learned that at school. school, and everybody knows that. And these are serious conversations I have with first graders. And I feel dumbfounded, because how am I supposed to educate other people's kids about this? They should have already known about it. And so if they're not walking to those schools, not only seeing that representation, but then their curriculum is only geared towards one person, how are they supposed to be successful and fight these statistics?
And I think also another important thing is to realize is that teaching is not a louder profession. No one becomes a teacher because they want to be wealthy or that it's one of the most respected places to be. Particularly for teachers of color, like less than 1% of people of color and specifically Black people are studying to be a teacher. That is a reality. That even if you go to an HBCU, if you recruit, if every district up here said, okay, we are going to flood all the HBCUs and grab all the teachers, we would not have enough. And so it's also upon us as community professionals to push into those schools. If you have stories to tell, come into the school, come and volunteer. Even if it's not your class, say, hey, I have this presentation over Black cowboys. Hey, I have this presentation over Black scientists. Push into the schools, because even if they are well-intentioned, they just, the count is not there. And then to that note, and to piggyback on her point, do not disrespect the fact that kids are in a place for 8 hours a day.
That's right.
And if they come home and say, I don't want to be in that place for 8 hours a day, something is wrong, that is not okay. I mean, just think about that. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 9 months a year, and you don't want to be there. So then fast forward, why would you want to be a teacher? And so, just, again, for the well-intentioned districts that are leading to the work, help them out. Go volunteer, say, hey, I can volunteer, I can be in this presentation. I'm in the process of visiting schools. When I walked to this one classroom, this little girl, she turned around, she said, who are you? And she just got up from her desk and came over there and hugged my leg and showed me her paper. And it just showed me that, she was looking for, to see someone like her in that building. And so while there was a Black teacher, but she was in a different grade on the other side of the building. And so we must push in, and schools must be a place that caters to, nurtures, and celebrates. If you have a child that can't get out of bed to go to school in the morning, something is wrong. They're there 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And they ought to want to be there and celebrate and say, hey, I'm going to school today. And I'm going to be a teacher when this is all over. Amen. We have like the biggest recruiting tool of all time. I mean, no other profession in our nation, in our economy, nobody else does that. Nobody goes to the hospital for 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. Nobody goes to the forest for 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. But 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, we have kids, and we cannot get people to be good teachers. And that's all I have to say about that.
The platform to share. But really, actually, it's really important that you hear the passion and you hear the facts and you hear the perspective, and also the representation in those. It's strategic. We have school board representation as well, and I know there's individuals running for positions in all throughout the government. It's important that we're asking our leaders, what are you really standing for? And if you are too hesitant to really stand up for the Black kids, Black girls, I don't know, you're not winning with me, I know that, but you may not be an expert. And I just want to shout out any alternative licensure teachers here. Me too. I did not go to school for education in undergrad. I went for sociology. Education, right? Something that, well, I liked summer, and I realized I needed a career that fit my lifestyle, and that worked. Disclaimer, I'm serious, right? No one told me about a career. I didn't think teaching as a career. But I just want to also promote, it's okay to go to undergrad and learn something different, because actually you'll be an expert in that, and then get your alternative licensure. And commit. That's the other part. You gotta commit. Because 2 years and done is not a good system either, right? So you need to commit to the community that you're embedded in, okay? But it is a different alternative for our young Black kids who are not really convinced that education in the schools are safe for them. So thank you for that. I'm going to transition us to have an opportunity to hear from our protect, serve, and guide us officers. And can I just read the question really quickly? I'm going to ask, how does the film bring to light the correlation between the overpunishment of Black girls in schools and the school to confinement pathway, so pipeline to prison? And what are your own efforts to address this? So obviously it's a little targeted for folks who are in spaces that, you know, get attention for retaining and a lot of times are scapegoats, but enforcing rules that are confining our girls.
Well, first I want to say, before I'm a cop, I am a Black girl. So right now I'm an SRO at Hinkley High School. And it's definitely been an interesting experience for me. What I've learned is, one, that we have to deal with things differently. We can't just go in there as a cop and say, this is how the rules go, this is what we need to do, and that's it. Because then that is how kids go into prison, that is how they end up going to jail. So basically, when the administrators bring something to me, and I'm like, okay, let's address the situation as, what can we do to help this kid? Instead of just arresting them, instead of just giving them a ticket, can we talk to them? Can we figure out different ways to help them instead of just automatically arresting them? And what I've learned in doing that is it also changes the administrator's role and how they feel about kids, because I know as a Black girl growing up, it's difficult in general. And so that's why I wanted to be an SRO in the first place, is so that I could help girls, not just Black girls, but Hispanic girls and all girls, so that we can have a better chance at life. And so it is really important for me that when things come to me, it's not just a ticket, it's not just, I have to arrest this kid. What can we do to help this kid? Maybe they are having issues at home. Maybe, you know, you just never know what a kid's issue is, and so if we don't talk to them, we'll never know that. And so that's where I like to begin, and generally we can work something else out instead of a ticket or jail.
And this helps, yes, no?
We can hear you.
Okay, I don't want to have to yell. Yeah, I'm piggyback off of my partner, so I'm currently not an SRO, but I was for 3 years at Oberlin High School. So, so that school definitely a different dynamic, because I also worked at Hinkley for a little bit in North Middle School. So I was Oberlin for 3 or 4 years, and I went to North and I went to Hinkley. So Oberlin was definitely a different dynamic. Again, I also got in this role, got an SRO because I just love kids, and again, first and foremost, I'm a Black female. So Oberlin is a lot of Black females. And so that was a challenge, I have to say, at that school. But I also want to throw out there too, I know we see a lot of stuff in the media with SROs or cops, you know, whatever, grabbing kids or, you know, doing all types of twist locks or putting young kids in, you know, handcuffs or whatever. I can't speak for any of those, but please know for our department alone, like, we have a selection process of who's going to become an SRO. You know, and I'm not saying, I'm not putting anything bad on what you see in other departments, but we're taught well, we're trained well. Every person that's picked to be an SRO is because they're passionate about kids. So we're not just going in there twist locking people, putting in people in handcuffs that don't need to be handcuffed. So please just be rest assured. I know it's kind of hard, it's a tough time right now, but our SROs and our program love kids and they're in there for a reason. But just to go back to Oberlin, it was just a different dynamic, you know, dealing with a lot of Black females. So I did the best that I could. You know, I had a dean there working with me. They started a sisterhood program. I would help, she asked me to come in and help with that. So as far as also, I'm kind of rambling, but going back into the prison to the pipeline and, you know, with the kids, again, with our program, like, we're not, all SROs, we're not speaking for us, we're not in there to ticket the kids. Just like my partner says, all of us, because we're passionate about, in these positions, we do the best that we can to kind of mitigate and, you know, figure out what else can we do. And then me being a Black female, when I get the kids of color in there, I know, because I just know that there's usually a history. So I'm always trying to figure out what's that history before we get into whatever we else have to do. And I liked what you said earlier as far as pushing yourself. So now I'm a community officer. So I have 3 elementary schools in my area. We're not in elementary schools as a police department because there's no reason for cops to be in an elementary school. But I literally just go to elementary schools all the time. Like, there's now one of my schools, I started going in there, you can tell like the principal, the staff was uncomfortable with me, and I was like, I don't really care, I'm gonna walk around. So now they're kind of used to me. But it's kind of funny because the kids all know me, but the staff doesn't really talk to me. But as soon as the kids see me, they come running over to my car and they want to see me. I've been going there for about 3 years now, and all the kids know me. Same with in elementary schools. All the schools in my area are pretty much brown kids. And I can't tell you, like she said, a couple times I've gone in, I have little elementary school brown kids are like, like their face when they see me. And it's not the fact that I'm a cop, it's like because I'm a black cop and I'm a black female. So just know, like, I purposely do my best to get out there and just try to connect with as many kids as possible and kind of be that voice. And then one more thing I'll say, is just because I am passionate about this. And you know, with everybody sitting here on the board, like, it's tough. I go into these schools, I work in North Aurora, and there's not many people that look like me. And then I go in the classrooms and I see the teachers and I see some of the struggles. And I've made connections now with elementary school schools that the schools will actually just call me directly if they're dealing with certain kids, so I can kind of come in there and try to talk to them. So that's another thing I'm pretty happy about, to kind of avoid, and these are young kids. I mean, there's a school that kept calling me on a 6-year-old boy. There was obviously issues at home. He was a black boy, but he was being really disruptive. And they always just try to call me and we'd sit there and have a talk. But it's tough. I mean, these teachers, they don't know, unfortunately, you know, white teachers they don't know the struggle that these kids are going through. And I had to laugh in the video where it made there's one last thing, where they made the comment, they made a comment about, like, you don't know what the kid took to get here, right? So I laugh about that because there's a charter school in my area. And so at the time, there's a charter school on one side and there's a public school on the other side. And so more connected with public school. The charter school, they give out their little things and tickets or whatever. So I was friends with staff on the public side. It actually happened to be a black principal. And she's telling me how the charter side would give kids, one kid got a ticket because his shoelaces are breaking. Okay, this is the kid that, like, they're homeless. Okay, so it's like, this kid made it to school today, and you guys want to give him a piece of paper and ding him for having, okay, you know, so just, yeah, that's all I can say. I'm sorry. I think that's
We've been working with Black Lives Matter 5280 at schools, and one thing that we're really trying to push, and something that we're going to hold DPS accountable to, we as Aurora have been in our schools, but we want to get rid of that and have counselors. It shouldn't be this is not a police state. To go to school, it shouldn't be a police state. And I support you all and the work you're doing, and I appreciate that, but that's not the root cause. Is that black kids shouldn't be going to school worried about getting cuffed. And the root cause is black kids shouldn't be going to school seeing cops, they should be seeing counselors. Yeah. And it's not just black kids, this is for all kids. And so I think we, like the movie said, right now, when you sit in spaces like this, you can feel society doing the shift. You will leave this space and you will feel that shift. And so if we start saying, no, I do not want a cop to sit with my kid, because legally, if they're outside of school, they shouldn't be sitting with your kid unless a parent is there. They shouldn't have anything to say unless a parent is there. And that's something, as a teacher, I make sure real clear to tell my students and parents. Like, no, and maybe for high school there are some different laws, but no, right? Like a cop, I know, because I've been in the police station, a cop would not search my sister without my permission. They would not. And so I think it's unfair that they get to make that decision to search kids at schools when they're there to learn. They're not there to be policed. And so, yes, and I see some
reaction.
Just real quick. So I work at Aurora Central High School, and yes, I hear you on that. However, I have sat with students in the SRO office, students that are going through like sexual abuse at home, and the SROs have been very helpful because they're reporting stuff against their own parents. So I mean, I see where you're coming from, and I hear you on the school to prison pipeline side. However, there are some benefits to like safety
Couldn't counselors do that same job?
Counselors have to report.
We're all mandated reporters, and so this is a tough conversation. I don't want to cut people off too much, but I do hear you for representing, right, from another teacher perspective. I know I just am going to ask because the panel has to leave, so I'm going to ask for some deference here in this case, but mandated reporting, as soon as you step in that building, even now to be a volunteer, it's fingerprinting, and so things have stepped up, and it is asking us to reconsider what we have been conditioned to believe is appropriate for the classrooms. Again, obviously it's not one thing at a time, take one out, obviously something has to replace it, right? So with that, can I
just want to say one thing. I know for myself as an SRO, I personally don't get involved in any of the school stuff. My main goal, even though I am a cop, my main goal is to make sure that the kids have a positive relationship with police. A lot of times, Black kids do not have positive relationships with police, and that is one of the reasons why I decided to be an SRO. It's very difficult to see because yes, I am in a uniform, but I think that once you're in high school and you already have a preconceived notion of what police do, and you see a cop and you're like, well, wait, not all of them were like that. And I think it's really important for us to be in school for that, to build those positive relationships.
And on that, thank you so much for sharing.
Aurora Police Department be willing to do the bridging, I forgot what it's called.
Bridging the gap.
Or bridging the gap, right?
Between kids and
cops and kids. We would like to bring that to Aurora. They already have a model in Denver that they're using, and we would really like to bring that same program to Denver where cops are being trained in implicit bias. They're being trained in de-escalation and trauma-informed care, and the students and the cops are able to be in the same room. And it humanizes both, right? It humanizes the children to the police officers and the officers to the police, and I really want to see that brought to Aurora.
Yeah, because those perceptions aren't based off of mill, right? It's facts, it's experiences, it's what we're being forced to witness online now, on television. These portrayals don't help either side necessarily. Amen. So the conversation I am aware
Can I ask my question? Because I gotta go too. I'm late with everybody else.
And I just want to remind you of what we discussed, right? We said what we and I said I can write it down. You also told me somebody else was going to ask it. So, all right. I just want to make sure.
Just don't let other people do their thing and I can't do mine.
It's not about that. It's about just making sure that the panelists who did commit just were able to share their last feelings and absolutely could share. I didn't call on her actually, so if panelists would defer to those things and let the analysts, because we want everyone's feelings to be respected and voices to be heard. So I appreciate the patience and understanding. It's tough. This is the push out. I'll give you the mic.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So in relation to this whole question, the film brought up blind trust in educators, and in working in the system and having a close relationship with the police department and educators, what is APS and what is APD doing to ensure that that blind trust doesn't cause children to be pushed out, their families to be pushed out, which has occurred and will continue to occur in APS?
So, APS, one of the things I wanted to add was that counselors, I think, absolutely, and one of our mill levy was focused on more social, emotional support in the schools. And I think that is absolutely important. As a child who went through trauma, went to 14 different schools, one of them Aurora Public Schools, I know not what every kid goes through, but I oversee the detention centers and the juvenile detention centers, and I can tell you that one of the things the video brought up was when kids are pushed out of school, they're pushed into the street, especially young Black girls. And so with Aurora Public Schools and what we're doing, I think that, you know, one of the things that our board, for the first time I have to mention, is majority minority. We have partnered. Chief Wilson and I have talked. Chief Wilson has talked to Rico Munn about partnerships and building youth coalition. As you all may know, youth violence right now is ridiculous. I oversee the Foot Center in Arapahoe County, which includes Aurora, And we have mass intakes of kids, 10 to 18, you can be arrested at 10 for a felony. We have mass intakes of kids. And a lot of those kids, when we ask them, did you go to school? Do you go to school? No, they're not in school. And for various reasons. And so I feel like one of the responsibilities of the Board of Education is really to push what is it that we can do to keep kids in school and partner and to mitigate some of the violence and crime that's going on in our city. I can't speak for Denver. However, yes, counselors, but counselors who look like them. Because the other thing too is that in detention, we have counselors, and they are, no offense to anyone, they are green, young, white women. And these kids from the street are not going to talk to you about what they're going through. So if the counselors look like them, it's going to make a difference.
Amen.
And being Aurora really acknowledges and realizes that we need more people of color in the classroom, because that's one of the issues that a lot of kids get in trouble because the teachers do not look like them, they can't talk to them, and end up getting to other issues. We are so dedicated to this that we put up a resolution and Aurora School Board to bring in teachers of color and black teachers.
Amen.
We just got that voted on.
Amen.
So I just want you guys to know that we are serious about this. We hear you and we know the importance of our kids having people that look like us.
And I've also received calls as the president, like, why don't you care about white teachers? Like, no, we do. We care about everyone. But the reality is that Aurora is so diverse that it is important to stress that you gotta see they gotta see somebody who looks like them.
To piggyback off Dr. Armstrong, Romero, there's also a need for us in our consciousness to stop grouping folks of color and when we're talking about specifically black children, because there is a real anti-blackness in all cultures. And so when we're talking about the most underserved population, it is black girls, then black boys. So when we're talking, so I'm pushing all y'all. This is why we're opening a school, because we got tired of complaining. Okay. We got tired of saying, please, can you please? Right. We're gonna offer a solution and say, bring your educators who are exhausted with this system, because black and brown educators are exhausted with this system too, exhausted with the rules, exhausted with having to execute it, as well as your students have been harmed. We have 2 weeks, we have committed every 2 weeks, the first year of school, the first school year, we are not doing academics. It's only SEL. It's only allowing these students to purge, only allowing these students to get healing. Counselors, I've had the pleasure of working with Mama Yolanda. I've had because we have to recognize that even when we're saying children of color, folks of color, there is still an anti-blackness that happens, and that hurts even more, because they are showing up. We have brown folks showing up in Eurocentric ideologies, Eurocentric biases that are still projecting the very thing. And sometimes it's easier for Sarah to give it to us than it is for Maria. And so it hurts. It hurts. And there is a reality that until we can get to a place where you are comfortable enough to say, I'm white, I'm brown, I'm yellow, or whatever, and I support black students, whatever black students need, we're going to do. There's plenty of studies that say even having black educators, it helps white students tremendously. So, I mean, we have to really look at the full picture of what it means to truly live DEI. This is not a pretty, soft, frilly, trendy word. Like this, we're talking about students' lives, and we have to recognize that there are biases even in the work when we're saying that there isn't.
Yeah.
Also to
so to piggyback off of Mama said, saying in reference to even psychology and counselors, we burn out too, and we burning out crazy because we're holding teachers as well as students as well as their families, and especially if you are a black counselor or a person of color. And it's because of language, it's because of psychology is antiquated, and it doesn't even keep up with what we even understand and know, as well as there are various types of psychologies. There are Black psychologies, there's Latino psychology, and none of it is valid. So we're again trying to dig trenches of and trying to hold in a capacity that burns us out as well. So as I go back and just looking at whether we need SROs in the schools and counselors, everyone must work together, because where we have history with Black students, we have history of Black bodies being shackled, and we have memory of that. And so to have counselors and SROs working together is essential, because we can piggyback off of each other to be able to say, hey, wait a minute, let's not, because this child body is already demonstrating that there's some trauma, and this is not the approach that needs to happen. However, that goes back to understanding our own culture, our own history, our own history within our families, within the community, to be able to support our students.
I just want to check with the audience. Do you feel like they answered your question?
No one addressed the blind trust. And when I say blind trust, this was from the film, it is an educator calls the police on a child, and maybe this isn't a school that has an SRO. And so the responding officer is believing the story that they have been told and then using that information. And so that has pushed out children from this district, from APS, pushed out their parents. And so what I want to know is, what is APS and APD doing to ensure that that blind trust does not push out any other citizens of this city?
I can't speak to APS. I'm with Cherry Creek, but Cherry Creek requires all of our SROs, all of the security officers, to go through our diversity training, which is I think it's a 2 or 3 day training. Everybody has to go through that. Also, as board members, you are able to negotiate with the departments and dictate that relationship that happens. So if you have like teachers just calling the police on kids, that is a climate that is created in that building or by that district. And so I know, like again, I can't speak for everyone else, but like in many school districts, that school district is paying either all or a portion of that officer's salary. So again, whatever that negotiation is. And so understand this, that SROs came into buildings after school shootings. And who is doing school shootings? Okay, so I'm gonna be honest, I'm from Illinois, and I don't know. There was some cops in the schools before the shooting. They were because of the school. It wasn't the sort of school shooting, you know, we got to stop this sort of thing. And so you can dictate that relationship to say, yes, you cannot write a ticket unless all these things have happened first, or until, and let me just say this to all the parents. Your child does not have the same rights in school that they have out on the street.
That's right.
If you have just like you have to talk with your child about how to interact with police on the street, have the talk with them about how to interact in school. They do not have the same rights. They can be searched. They can be placed in a room. Now they are supposed to call you and all those sorts of things. But I have told my kids, if that happens to you, go to the office and say, I need to call my parents, and don't say anything else. Even if you are, there's been situations where kids are witnesses and they all wrapped up in this stuff. I tell my kids, even if you are a witness, we want to be good citizens, we want to help, but do not say, I need to call my mom, and don't say anything else.
Amen.
And so, go ahead.
Just with the blind trust, first of all, SROs are not paid for out of the APS budget. We've been on that, we talked about that, but they're not. I don't know about Cherry Creek.
Yeah, it can be between the police departments and the schools, whatever they set up.
So it's not in our school budget, none of our schools. So with the blind trust piece, for example, if you're at Aurora Frontier or Century or whatever, there's this systemic racism, either with the principal or the dean or whomever. APS and APD and the board may not know that, right? And we can't wave a magic wand to rid systemic racism, because I would do it, but we can't do it. However, this week I've dealt with 3 different parent complaints about issues within the schools. And I've worked with the district, and as a board, we're limited on all of the things that we can do. Again, school board is not paid, so give it up to us. We all that we're still trying to get involved to make that change. And you're absolutely right. That blind trust is important. However, it's also an education factor, a piece, because some of our principals come in green. Some of our counselors come in green. And how do we educate them? How is the school educating them? And how do we make sure? I think it's more than just doing an implicit bias training. Anybody can do that and still be racist. And so it's us holding them accountable and working together and collaborating. That's what we have to do. And so I know it's not the magic wand that I wish we all had, but even in DYS, it's the same thing.
I will say that we do have a magic wand, and that's what we're trying to create with the Black Caucus, is that we hold these people accountable. And so having a base of people that are ready to show up, because this parent called my student, right? Let me put a plug out for Black Caucus. We've had teachers come from Jeffco. We've had teachers come from Aurora Public Schools. It's not just a DPS thing. We need someone to go and support those parents. Like, no, you called my student or you searched my student, we're gonna hold you accountable. We're gonna hold you accountable in this community, because maybe mom's working 2 jobs, but somebody else can show up. And I also think too, like, yes, this puts a lot on our teachers of color, and yes, but if someone in my building, and if a parent called me and was like, yo, this happened, should I trust this teacher? I think it's my job to be as honest as I can and as professional as I can, but I'm about to go snitch to my principal. And so I think that's another thing, and that it's hard. Like you said, you have to have a conversation with your students, but you also have to have a conversation with your community members. Like, we might have to go up in here and act a fool. And if they're gonna try to kick me out because I wanna know where my kid is, and if he's in a closed door with an adult and I just came up in here and asked, I need to see my son because I heard he's being over-disciplined, we need to have people that are gonna back that parent up. Because exactly, I'm gonna get hot, and they're gonna be like, she have a bad attitude problem, but not when it comes to my kids, our kids. And so I think that, like I said, we have to, right? We have to organize. We have to be able to be on the same page. I have to be able to call my APS folks and be like, yo, this happened in this DPS school, let's go, right? We have to go. And that's like, thank you for showing up, because you all are doing that work. Like, the more we do this, the better. And especially when it comes to educators, that's when we get into our accomplices. I'm in a really good place in my building that I can go to certain teachers and be like, yo, your homie on the 2nd floor is having issues, can you please go talk to them? Because it's not my job to educate white teachers anymore. Like, that's where I am in my part of my realm. And so I think, it's, like I said, it's a community effort, and there are white accomplices in these buildings that are doing the work. And in my opinion, they shouldn't be hired. If you don't have the training, then you need to wait and get put on an ice block until you do have the training. And I think as educators, we're going to continue to fuel that. Like,
Not even just white.
Say it again.
And just the APD part, you brought up about the police. I know my chief will probably speak to you after, but just generally speaking. So as far as, we don't respond unless the principal or teachers call us. So know that, like my part, we don't go around looking for this stuff. So
And that's why I
they're
said
bringing to us. They bring us the black and the brown to the office. That's why, it's the officers, the SROs that have picked and chosen, they're the ones that kind of do that mitigation. On the second note, going back to the counselors, I can't tell how many times I've said, and again, I can speak from my personal experience of it because I am brown, or what, doesn't matter what kid, but I've numerous times in that conversation saying, this isn't a police matter, call the parents, or get the counselor, right? Like, I'm always trying to pass it off. Like, unless somebody's injured, like we're talking something violent, don't call me. I've said that numerous times. I've had Deans call me personally, like, hey, I have blah, blah, blah. That's not a police problem. Don't call me. And one last thing, this is my last, just prize, because I get all the time, can you tell him and not to do this, because if not, you're going to arrest him? No, that's not my job, right? No, I do that all the time. We have a lot of community folks who want to speak,
I just have to acknowledge we're running low on time, so you have an option as an audience together. Thumbs up if you want to keep on this same content or move to another question.
Move to another question.
She's been waiting up there for a while.
Yes. Well, hold on, no, on that. Okay, move on, we'll get her question, but gonna need some help breaking down. That's it. Okay. So,
Thank you for your answers. I appreciate them. Thank you, Chief. I look forward to speaking with you. Thank you for allowing my question.
it was definitely, absolutely, and if you don't mind.
Hi, my name is Rebecca, actually. I don't have a question, I just have a comment, because I agree with the sister that I don't think it should be normal to see cops in school. But I understand that's where we're at, right? So with that being where we're at, and with that being that we have to, have our SROs working with the counselors, number one, like, this one here, obviously she's one of us, so of course we feel comfortable, but we're in Colorado, and most of them don't look like us, so that means most of the SROs are not gonna be like us. I think that the key element is whether it's an SRO or a counselor, because again, like, sister said here, there's not that many people who want to be teachers, so even if we go hunting them, we may not find them, but I think the key element is that, lived experience should be a requirement if you're gonna be a counselor. You should have experienced some level of something that can help you help the next person, but people who are coming in green, as we keep saying, who have no lived experience, really can't efficiently help someone who's been in poverty or, traumatic situations. So I just think that's a key element that hiring staff with the lived experience should be a requirement.
Thank you for sharing. So I heard the majority of people kind of want to move on to the next question, but I do want to encourage you. There's a couple of other platforms you can always utilize to share your voice, which is to attend school board meetings, APS. When are they? Do you mind?
This Tuesday, 6 o'clock, and the first and third Tuesday of every month, except for July, at 6 p.m.
I just forgot all of that, so what I'm going to make sure to do is to send an email to everyone. That's why I did ask you to register, because we want to follow up with information so you can be empowered later after this really intense and necessary conversation. And Cherry Creek?
Second Monday.
Okay, and DPS is like, what, the third
Thursday. And we have a community meeting every Thursday at our location. So if you want to be a solution, we want to hear that.
So, we're on track because this is where we needed to go. You have to let it flow.
Thank you, guys.
Well, we have addressed mental health to an extent, but I definitely want to maybe hear from your perspective how things can be supported at home. So, we have a lot of educators who do a lot of good work in the building, and they're often home, and the conversation is everything you can work on with the student is not supported back at home. So this would be a time to share your resources, things that you're doing and what you've created, and be able to talk about how parents and community can support your endeavors outside of the school building.
I know right now I'm working on what I talked about earlier, just building a list, a database of that community people who can push into the schools until we are able to get more that our teachings reflect our students, what they look like.
Paid?
And then
Compensation?
not right now. But there may be, at some point,
We're gonna put that in the atmosphere.
Yes, absolutely. Listen,
that's the investment we need.
Be paid for their work, absolutely. But yes, I'm all about that as well.
Brown people to show up, pay them.
Or give them that book.
They work for free.
I'm not suggesting working for free, but 30-minute sharing is like all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to have somebody in the school for 8 hours, be working with kids. But I also want to point to the and having this conversation. We also need to recognize how this process traumatizes parents. That's one of the reasons how I got into this work. And I just shared with Lee, I was on vacation at Disney, and Deborah Disney, literally, I'm in line waiting for this ride, and you know, all the kids are like, there was one kid who was like pulling the bushes out of the ground. Another kid is throwing mulch in the air. Another kid is on the floor having a tantrum. And she taps me on, and my kids are just like, you know, just running around the bushes. They haven't touched anybody, they haven't fallen over, they haven't done anything. But she pointed on my shoulder and said, my kids were being a bad example. Needless to say, I got her all together. I was so scared, but I was so angry that I don't remember the last time I've been that angry. Yeah. Simply because I am at Disney, right? There is no child well behaved at Disney. Right? But here we are at Disney. You know, their logo is the happiest day on earth. And so she is in line at freaking Disney, policing Black children. And so while, you know, I didn't have all the dissertation words, but I mean, the last time I was that angry was in my 20s at this raggedy boyfriend I had. I was sitting there seething, I was like at Disney, like seething. And then I had both of I have boy-girl twins, and my daughter, she just kind of kept playing, but my son kind of picked up on my energy, and he started rubbing my arm, and was like, Mom, you know, and I just was like, this so-and-so, and I was so mad, and so it just was like, so here I am, at Disney, my blood pressure's up. I got a headache because I was like, I just wanted to punch her in the face.
So how can we support a mom who's upset about policing of their like, that wasn't their kid?
No, what would you suggest? I think it's stressful all around. And so even though my kids did not pick up on that aggression and what that whole thing was, as a middle-aged Black woman, I did. And so that impacts our health, it impacts our mental well-being. I'm at Disney trying to spend all this money. And so it just shows that this stuff is all around us. And so don't dismiss the adults and how we have to, you know, deal with all this information and that's.
I think for VPAC's approach, we have a village model. And so it is very important for us and shout out to our principal, he's right there. We have a Black male principal, y'all. And he's fine too. But our approach is really, and I introduced him, one, because everyone needs to know who he is, because bring your students to us will be open August 17th club. Sixth grade, yes, we're looking for our sixth graders. But I also introduced him because that's our approach. You come into our building and you feel family. So you got a baba, you got a mama, you get auntie, you get everybody. And what happens is that our families, and I have some of my parents are in the audience right now, and everyone who spoke so wonderfully, and the families become responsible for all of the babies too. So if I know that your child is my child and your child is my child, what happens is now we get to heal. And what struck me the most is we have always said VPAC is going to heal the community. So when I heard them say schools need to be healing places, that is the truth. And until we get families where families can come and purge, we have had mamas cry. When we have summer camp, our parents don't want to go to work because they are like, this is just comfortable. And I just feel like I'm accepted. I feel like I can be who I am. And we have to recognize that these babies are coming from trauma that their parents have had too. And so if we are not being patient, if we are not being understanding to that, we have to offer brotherhood and sisterhood. You know, as much as we want to ensure education is first, a baby is not ready to learn if they're hungry. A baby is not ready to learn if they are homeless. A baby is not, and so we have to address whole child, whole family. The African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child, there is a second part to that that always gets left, and it says it takes a village to raise a family, right? And so until we get to that place where we are out of our ego, out of what hurts us, and out of all of this, and saying at the end of the day, how are the children? At the end of the day, what do these babies need? And if these babies need mama to have a mama support and a mama rub, that's what they're gonna get, because we need mama well, so that when she's feeding this baby, she's in good spirits, right? And so there's an obligation for those of us who have the education to ensure that we are living the education and being the example of the education. And like I said, our approach is we every Thursday, we talk. Sometimes we're not even talking about the school model. We're just helping parents. You know what I mean? Like, what are the resources you need right now? And so we have to recognize, feed these babies, feed the families, get to where they trust you in order for them to be vulnerable with you and transparent about what they truly are going through.
You say every Thursday, what time?
Every Thursday at 6 o'clock, 1445 Dayton Street. It's down the street. Right across the street. And shout out to the People's Building. They are a long partner with us. So they have seen our radical revolutionary approaches for years. But this is a beautiful space, and if you have an organization, utilize this space. This is what this space was created for, and Aaron has come in and ensured that these type of things can happen.
Anybody else like to share?
From mental health, we have not even got the dime in that bucket. But what I would like to say is, one, we have to get off the myth that mental health is not an issue in our community, because it's a dreadful sore that's in our community. We need to understand when someone is talking about social emotional versus mental health. Those are two different things that we really need to have a clear understanding of what it means and how do we go about being able to support it, as well as part of our healing is going back to what Mama is saying. As people of color, Black people, we work in communal settings. That is where we heal. That's how we heal. That's how we understand who we are as a people. We understand what illnesses are running within our family, or even why this illness is running in a collective way. We cannot pull them apart at all. When we're talking about counselors that are working with our kiddos, the reason why they can come in green is because they're working from a Eurocentric point of view. That's why they can come in green. And they're coming in from a theoretical point of view. When we're talking about working with mental health, it's only 3% of theoretical understanding that's actually in play. 3%. Everything else is about the person that is showing up and what they're able to understand, process, mirror back, show empathy for, provide space for, and that one person still can't do it by themselves. It takes a collective to be able to heal. We were traumatized collectively. The only way we're going to heal is collectively. Amen. Right? So we have of really leaning into the schools where we have to come together. That's parents, community leaders, teachers, everyone, and we have to take the stand to say this is what it looks like, this is what we need, so that we can get what is needed for our students as well as for ourselves. Parents also, I get it, they've messed over us a lot for years, for centuries, for ages. And we're ready to come up into the school building and ready to put it down. And there's another part of that we have to take onus for, because our children only model what they see. They only model what they see. So if we understand that we all have to do our healing, that is including me. When I'm finished working with kiddos, and I work with 500-600 of them at a time, I have to heal too. And I have to take time out, because if not, I'm spinning the same stuff over and over can. So just to dump in the mental health bucket, it's all about reflection, it's all about modeling, it's all about you knowing who you are. Know thyself. When you know thyself, then you understand that you're part of a collective as well. And using your voice, communicating, going to someone else to say, this doesn't make sense, can you explain this to me? What does this mean? I've had this going on because I also know we keep things very close to us because it's not a lot of people that we can trust. And there are people that are saying, we're here, trust us. You have to walk the walk right along with us. We can't do it by ourselves.
Awesome things. I'm going to ask in the interest of time, if you have some more questions for the panelists. For one, if they're okay with me sharing some basic contact information, I'll follow, so check your email. And, go to the school board meetings. And for the parents, consider getting on the boards. Consider the PTOs. And Neela, I don't know if you wanted to share, I know you're in charge of the PSA at your school, so it's like for a teacher perspective, and she already said snitch on the teachers, not, right?
I'm sorry. Then before you close, you're gonna tell us what's next for closing the block. So what is your follow-up to that?
Oh, that's a personal question.
Well, no, I mean, I just want an action plan, right? Because a lot of times what happens as queen, we come to stuff like this, we're going through this, it's a lived experience, and we're community stakeholders. So now it's 8:30, we pull up our chairs, now what? That's all I want to know. So after I get the email, so I just want to make sure that there's a...
Enroll feedback. Yeah, there's action items. It is, to me, it is making sure your voice is heard. To me, that is the call to action.
Okay.
Show up for the community.
Okay.
Be in the schools. You want to say no? Okay, go ahead.
First of all, I want to thank all of you for being here, all these beautiful places, and having you guys here. One thing we have to do too, look at each other and lift each other up. We don't do that enough as Black women and all women. That's one thing we can do to help each other. As far as what's happening in Aurora schools, like I said, we're doing the resolution to try to bring more Black teachers in. Right now, we're dealing with bargaining for the teachers, well, not for the teachers, but that's something on the table also. We're dealing with JASPA, the help. So Aurora, we are very busy, guys. We are constantly out here working with the parents. We need more parents to get involved. We're thinking about the regional design. How many know about the blueprint? That's big going on in Aurora right now, okay? We need parents to get involved in that and know what's getting ready to happen in your communities. Because there's a lot of good things happening and maybe not so, but we need you guys to come to the board meetings, show up. We want to hear your voices. There's 7 of us on this board. We can't do it by ourselves. We gotta,
Take to the school nutrition pipeline work group. I have heard that you guys are no longer meeting.
So I'm going to ask just to respect the expectation. If you have any more questions, you do know the times and dates to follow up with these individuals. And I appreciate those questions. So if you want to leave some with me, I can take some as well. However, I just want to make sure
we're open. I have cards.
Just for the plug. So if you're interested in volunteering with the detained youth, kids who are incarcerated, and this will get you my contact information. We need volunteers in our detention centers. We need groups for kids in our detention centers, people to read to kids, creative writing, all of that stuff. If you're interested, please get with me. Also, we're also trying to start a school, a youth board that is an advisory to the school board. And so if you have any ideas or thoughts about how we can operationalize that, we need that. So please, thank you.
So if we could give